Jake was used to machines. They didn't scream, didn't lie, didn't cheat. They just followed rules. Gears turning like clockwork. That's why he liked them better than people. At least most of the time, he worked deep inside the lower levels of Station Corax, a huge alien outpost floating at the edge of human space. It was crowded with beings from all over the galaxy, some tall, some small, some with 4 arms or glowing eyes. But they all had one thing in common. They broke things, and Jake fixed them. One slow afternoon, his cum beeped. A new job request had arrived, it said. Private Nutritional Unit Malfunction, Sector A Toner, Zyri. Species Falari. Jake raised an eyebrow. Falari were rare, small, soft-skinned, usually shy, and very private. He had only seen one beforehand, that was. From far away, he grabbed his tool bag and headed out. Curious, the hallway to Sector 8 was quiet. Dim lights flickering. Zyri's door was metallic blue, with alien markings glowing faintly. Jake pressed the chime, but no one answered. The job order gave him access, so he used his override key and stepped inside. The room smelled like flowers and heat. Strange, but not unpleasant. Everything was neat, except for the corner where the machine sat blinking angrily. It looked like a food processor. Food processors were tall, humming, and covered in blinking alien runes. "All right, let's see what's bothering you," Jake muttered, placing his tools down. He walked around it, tapping the panels. The interface screen flickered to life. It was all in the Falari script, looping curves and sparkling letters. Beautiful, but unreadable. Jake sighed. No translation option. Typical. Then his eyes landed on a button. It was larger than the others, round and glowing red. Right above it were 3 blinking symbols and a strange pulsing line. Something about it screamed, "Don't touch," which, of course, made Jake want to touch it even more. He hesitated, scratched his chin, and mumbled, "It's probably just a reset," and then he pressed it. The machine stopped humming for a second. A loud ping echoed, and the top compartment opened with a hiss, releasing a soft mist. The lights dimmed and then turned green. Everything looked fine. Jake waited. Nothing exploded. No sparks, no alarms. He shrugged, packed his tools, and left a quick note on the counter. System reset complete. No major issues detected. Jake, he walked out, forgetting all about the red button, but in the room next door, a tiny figure stirred. Zyri was curled up on her resting mat. Her long ears twitched as her body shifted under the soft covers. She blinked slowly, then sat up. Her body felt heavy. She frowned and looked down, her chest her coconuts. As humans jokingly called them, looked swollen, larger than they had ever been. She touched them lightly. They felt warm, firm, and glowing faintly beneath her skin. Panic flickered in her golden eyes. "No, this isn't normal," she whispered, her voice trembling. She ran to the food unit, the same machine Jake had just repaired. It beeped happily at her, but the screen now showed a strange icon, something like a spiral mixed with a heart. She didn't understand it, but it made her nervous. She pressed the emergency help button, but nothing responded. Her hands trembled. Her face flushed deep violet. This wasn't just a malfunction. Something had been triggered. Something ancient. Something her kind had once banned, and someone had touched the button. Zyri's small fists clenched. She stormed toward the hallway. Her coconuts bounced slightly with every step, glowing brighter as they absorbed more energy. She didn't know who did it, but she was going to find out. Meanwhile, Jake was already in his next job. Fixing a pipe in the cafeteria wall, he hummed to himself, wiping grease off his fingers. He had no idea that somewhere behind him, a furious, blushing alien girl was stomping through the halls with fire in her stepsand. Something very big, growing out of control. And all because of one little button, *. Zyri stood in front of the mirror. Eyes wide, mouth slightly open. She touched her chest again, slowly, carefully, as if hoping it wasn't real. But it was real. Very real. Her coconuts had doubled in size. Overnight, glowing faintly with a soft pink light. They were not just larger, they pulsed, as if filled with something alive. They weren't painful. But they felt heavy and strangely warm. Her body felt different, unbalanced, unstable. "What is happening to me?" she whispered, her voice shaking. Filari biology was delicate. Their coconuts weren't just for appearance, they were important. Energy reserves used for nutrition, balance, and sometimes mating signals. But this was beyond anything natural. It felt like her body was preparing for something she didn't understand. She moved to her console, trying to access the health scanner. But the system blinked red and refused to open. Her file was locked classified. She gritted her teeth, breathing fast. Then she remembered the human mechanic from yesterday. He had touched something, she was sure of it. Zairi grabbed her coat, trying to hide the growth. But it was no use. The fabric stretched tight, barely covering her front. She walked quickly through the hallways. Ears flat, tail stiff. People stared. Then looked away quickly, pretending they didn't notice. But she could feel their eyes, the heat of shame crawling up her neck. "Where's the human mechanic?" she asked a passing security droid. "Level 3 maintenance bay," it replied. She marched forward, face burning, chest bouncing slightly with each step. The glow had grown brighter, and the strange warmth inside her was increasing by the minute. She needed answers, and she needed them now. Jake was in the middle of fixing a broken air duct when she arrived. He looked up and froze, nearly dropping his wrench. "Whoa," he muttered, eyes wide. Zairi crossed her arms, which didn't help much. Her coconuts pushed against her forearms. "Impossible to hide. You touched it," she said sharply. "You pressed the red button." Jake blinked. Maybe, yeah, but I thought it was just a reset." "It wasn't," she snapped, stepping closer. "That button triggered something ancient, something dangerous. My body is changing, and I can't stop it." Jake held up his hands. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Let me take a look again. Maybe I can fix it." Zairi looked down. Ashamed, "Fix it before it's too late." They both returned to her room. Jake felt awkward, trying not to stare, but it was hard not to notice the obvious. Zairi sat on the edge of her bed, hugging her knees, glowing softly in the dim light. Jake knelt by the machine and pulled off the side panel. "Looks like the interface is locked." That button activated something called Core Expansion Protocol. "Do you know what that means?" Zairi closed her eyes. "It was banned long ago. It enhances fertility, energy storage, and ... other things. It was used for breeding programs during wartime. My people shut it down after accidents." Jake winced. "And now it's back on." Zairi nodded slowly. "My coconuts will keep growing. My body will absorb energy non-stop. If we don't stop it, it could hurt me." Jake stared at the screen, then typed a few commands. But everything was blocked. "I need the manual, or at least a translator. There's got to be a reversal." Zairi's breathing grew heavy. Her face pale. "It's speeding up," she whispered. "I can feel it inside. Like something waking up." Jake swallowed hard. "Okay, listen. I'll find the manual. Or someone who can help. Just rest for now. Don't move too much." Zairi nodded. Curling up on her side, her coat slipped slightly, revealing more glowing skin. Jake looked away quickly, then grabbed his tools and left in a rush. As the door closed behind him, Zairi whispered to herself, "Please fix this, human." But her body didn't wait. The coconuts pulsed again, larger now, the glow turning a deep pink. Her temperature rose, and something deep in her core hummed with ancient power. Her hands trembled as she held herself, scared, confused, and helpless, outside. Jake rushed through the corridors, his heart pounding. He had touched a button, but now he had triggered something far more serious. He didn't know what he was up against, but he knew one thing. He was going to fix it, no matter what it took. Jake stood outside the station library, tapping his foot. The place smelled like old circuits and dust. And the alien librarian, octopus-like creature with 6 glasses on its eyes, was watching him closely. He tried not to look nervous. He had searched every maintenance record, translation file, and repair log, but there was nothing about core expansion protocol. Not in human systems, not in the shared galactic networks. It was like someone had erased it on purpose. Jake finally found one old Falari document, hidden in a sealed archive. It was written in ancient Falari script, but the system translated some of it. Enhancement chamber nutrient surge, fertility bloom, do not use on unbonded subjects. Jake scratched his head. Unbonded. What does that mean? He took a copy and rushed back to Ziri's room. The hallways felt longer now, quieter, as if the station itself held its breath. He stopped at her door, hesitated, then knocked gently. Ziri, it's me. No answer. He pressed the door panel, and it opened slowly. Inside, the lights were dim. The scent of sweet fruit filled the air, like warm honey mixed with flowers. Ziri was sitting cross-legged on her bed, wrapped in a soft blanket. Her glowing coconuts peeked out slightly from under the fabric, now even larger, shimmering with soft blue light. Her eyes looked tired, but calm. I found something, Jake said softly. Walking in, it's not much, but it explains a little. Ziri raised her head. Tell me. Jake held up the tablet. This machine didn't just give you nutrients. It started a process used for preparation for bonding. It means your body thinks you're about to mate. Ziri's cheeks flushed a deep violet. Her eyes widened, and she pulled the blanket tighter around herself. That's not possible. I didn't ask for this, Jake raised his hands quickly. I know, it was me. I pressed the wrong button. I didn't understand what it did. I'm sorry. The room went silent for a moment. Then Ziri whispered, I should be angry, but I'm scared. Jake sat down on a stool near her bed. Not too close, not too far. We'll fix this. I swear, I just need more time to figure out how to reverse it. Ziri looked down, her hands gently resting over her glowing chest. The light is spreading to my skin. My energy levels are rising fast. I can feel it, like heat inside, if it keeps growing. I don't know what will happen to me. Jake looked at her closely, her eyes shimmering in the low light, her voice trembling. She wasn't just embarrassed, she was afraid, and somehow, even with all that glowing energy, she looked soft, vulnerable, beautiful in a way he hadn't noticed before. I need your help, she said quietly. Stay with me, just for a while. Jake nodded, his voice dry. Okay, yeah, sure. He sat on the floor beside her bed, and the silence between them stretched gently, not uncomfortable, just strange. She spoke again. Softer this time. Falari don't show our bodies easily. Coconuts are private, sacred. They store life energy. It's more than just appearance. Jake glanced away. I didn't mean to see you like this, but you did, Ziri said. Her voice almost a whisper, and you didn't laugh, you didn't run. Jake turned back toward her. I'm not running from this. Not from you. She looked surprised, then her lips curved into a shy smile. That's good. Because I don't think I can do this alone. Jake reached into his bag and pulled out a small energy stabilizer. Here, this might help slow the surge, at least for now. Ziri held out her hand. Their fingers touched briefly. Her skin was warm, almost too warm, but soft like velvet. The moment passed in silence, but something strange sparked between them, like the machine had awakened something not just in her, but in him too. He installed the stabilizer on the side of the machine, and the lights dimmed slightly. The glowing pulse in her coconuts softened. Not gone, but no longer rising out of control, Zairi sighed with relief. "Thank you," Jake smiled. One step at a time, they sat quietly after that. The room calm, Zairi leaned her head back. Resting, her breathing slower, the danger hadn't passed, but for now, there was peace. And Jake, the curious mechanic who had only wanted to fix a machine, now found himself watching over a glowing, beautiful alien girl with mysterious biology and a connection neither of them could explain. But something had begun, and it was only the start. Jake couldn't sleep that night. His mind was stuck on glowing lights, strange buttons, and Zairi's trembling voice. She had trusted him even after everything he did wrong. And now, something deeper pulled at his chest. Something that wasn't just guilt. He sat in the dim light of his workshop, scanning old Filari tech files. Most were corrupted or locked. But one caught his eye on damaged blueprint with faded letters, the file name translated roughly to Project Bloom. Bloom. He whispered, frowning. He opened the file, and a 3D model appeared on screen. It looked like Zairi's nutrition unit, but with extra components hidden inside. Behind the food dispenser and the energy panel was something else, something organic-looking. He zoomed in. There, in bold alien symbols, was a warning. Reproductive catalyst do not activate without bonded consent. Jake sat back in his chair, heart thumping. What the hell kind of machine is this? He read more. The device had been part of an old Filari program designed to artificially boost fertility. It would expand biological systems, store energy, and prepare a subject for reproduction without natural bonding. It had been banned centuries ago, deemed unethical and dangerous. The red button hadn't just reset the machine, it had triggered a dormant protocol buried in its core. And now Zairi's body was caught in the process. Jake slammed his hand on the table. Damn it, this is my fault. He saved the file, grabbed his toolkit, and ran toward Zairi's room again. This time, he didn't knock. He entered fast breath. Heavy, heart racing, Zairi was awake. Curled in her blanket, her coconuts were even bigger now. Pulsing gently with soft light, her skin shimmered with thin glowing lines tracing across her arms and neck. Her eyes opened as he entered, tired but calm. "You found something," she said softly. Jake nodded, sitting beside her. "It's worse than we thought." That machine, it's not just a food unit. It's an old Filari device from a secret program called Project Bloom. It's meant to prepare you for reproduction. Whether you want it or not. Zairi's face turned pale, then violet. Her hands gripped the blanket tightly. "That's why I feel this way. My body is being pushed into bonding mode." Jake lowered his voice. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to put you in this danger. I didn't know." Zairi shook her head slowly. "My parents told me about the old days when our people used tech to control the body, to choose mates, to create soldiers. They ended it long ago. But some of those devices were hidden." Jake showed her the blueprint on his screen. "There's something else. To reverse the process, we need a rare energy crystal Filari. Call it Azarine Core. The machine won't unlock the reversal protocol without it." Zairi looked at the diagram, her eyes tracing the alien symbols. "Azarine only grows on one moon. It's a dangerous place. The air is thin, the ground unstable. My people never go there anymore." Jake stood up. "Then I'll go." Zairi blinked. "You," he nodded. Firm. "Yes, I started this. I'll fix it. I'll get that crystal. I don't care how far or how dangerous it is." Zairi's eyes softened. "You would risk all that for me?" Jake looked into her eyes. Voice low. "I already did when I pressed that button. Now I'll do it the right way." Zairi reached out and held his hand gently. Her touch was warm and slow, her glowing skin wrapped around his fingers like soft silk. "You're not like others," she said quietly. "You see me, not just my body." Jake felt his chest tighten. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. She let go slowly. "Be careful, Jake. That moon. It changes people. Some say it makes you see your deepest fears." He gave a small smile. "I've already seen mine hurting someone I didn't mean to." He left the room soon after, heading to the docking bay. His ship wasn't fancy, an old human cruiser with patched panels and rattling engines, but it would do. As the engines roared to life, he looked at the small glowing crystal Zairi had given him a guide stone. Linked to the azurine ore, it would help him find the right cave, the right path, back in her room. Zairi stood by the window, watching the stars. Her coconuts still pulsed, but her fear had lessened. Jake was out there, risking everything for her, and though her body glowed with uncontrollable energy, her heart was calm, because for the first time in her life, someone wasn't just trying to fix her machine, he was trying to save her. The stars outside the ship blinked like quiet warnings. But Jake kept his hands steady on the controls. The navigation panel showed a jagged moon ahead, small and dark, with glowing blue veins running through its rocky surface. That was at Lunarona 9. The only place in the galaxy where the azurine crystal could be found. The guide stone Zairi gave him floated gently near the dashboard, glowing stronger as the ship approached the moon's orbit. Jake had no idea what he would find down there, just that it was the only chance to save her. He landed the ship on a flat cliffside near the crystal zone. The moment the hatch opened, the air hit him like ice, thin and sharp, like breathing through a straw. He pulled his oxygen mask over his face and stepped out onto the cracked ground. Every step echoed strangely, as if the rocks beneath him whispered secrets. The guide stone pulsed and drifted forward, leading him down a narrow path between jagged spires. Glowing blue moss grew on the walls, and the wind howled like a warning. Jake's boots slipped more than once, but he kept going, each step heavier than the last. He remembered Zairi's face, glowing, worried, strong, and it gave him strength. Then the ground shook. A low growl rumbled through the rocks. Jake froze, eyes wide. From the shadows crawled a beast eight-legged, thin as bone, with skin like broken crystal and eyes that glowed red. Jake backed up slowly, reaching for his pulse torch. The creature hissed, tail lashing behind it like a whip. Then it pounced. Jake ducked just in time, rolling across the ground as claws scraped metal. He fired the torch, a blast of heat slamming into the beast's side. It screeched and vanished into the shadows, but the noise didn't fade. It got louder. More were coming. Jake ran, following the pulsing guide stone through a narrow tunnel. The sound of claws chased him, echoing from behind. Just as he reached the end of the passage, the stone glowed brighter. He had arrived. The cave opened into a glowing chamber. Blue light spilled from the walls, and at the center stood a pedestal of crystal. On it sat the azurine core, beautiful and terrifying. It pulsed like a heartbeat, slow and deep. Jake rushed forward, but the floor cracked beneath him. A trap, a sinkhole pulled him downward. He grabbed the edge of the pedestal, hanging on with one hand as his feet dangled over darkness. The beasts were close now, their shadows dancing on the cave walls. Jake grit his teeth, reached out, and snatched the azurine core with his free hand. The moment he touched it, the cave glowed brighter, and the guide stone pulsed like a flare. Jake shoved the core into a socket in his chest harness. The stabilizer lit up and created a shockwave, knocking the beasts back just as one leapt toward him. He pulled himself up, panting, covered in dust and blood, but alive. No time to rest. He sprinted back the way he came, now using the activated guide stone to blast open shortcuts through the rock. The beasts howled behind him, furious, but the path collapsed before they could follow, trapping them inside. Jake stumbled back into his ship, Falling into the pilot's seat, he pressed launch, and the engines lifted him from the moon's crust. Surface, the Azarine core pulsed at his chest, its energy humming through his body. As the moon shrank behind him, he whispered, "Hang on, Ziri, I'm coming." Back on the station, Ziri's condition had worsened. Her coconuts glowed a deep violet now, her skin covered in fine energy lines. Her breathing was shallow, and her body trembled as the surge pushed her closer to collapse. The medical systems couldn't keep up, and no one dared approach her, afraid. Of what her energy might do, she lay in silence, whispering his name, Jake. "Please come back." Then the cum crackled. "Ziri, it's me. I've got it." Jake's voice filled the room, tired but alive. Her eyes opened wide. And for the first time in hours, she smiled. The ship shook as it entered the docking bay. Jake didn't wait for the engines to cool. He ripped off his harness, grabbed the Azarine core, and ran out the hatch, his legs burned, lungs tight. But he didn't stop, not even for a second. Ziri didn't have time. He rushed through the station. Ignoring the stares, the warnings from maintenance droids, the energy core in his hand pulsed with fierce light. Hot and alive, it vibrated like a living heart, as if it already knew where it belonged. Jake reached Ziri's room and slammed the door open. The lights inside flickered weakly. The air was thick with heat and energy. Ziri lay curled on her side, glowing like a star about to explode. Her coconuts were enormous now, glowing violet blue. Her skin shimmered with lines of pure energy, and her breath came in short, soft gasps. "Ziri," Jake whispered, rushing to her side. "I've got it. I'm here." Her eyes fluttered open, barely focused. "Jake." "You came back. I said I would," he replied, voice shaking. "I'm going to fix this, right now." He hurried to the machine, opened the back panel. I saw the glowing socket where the Azarine core belonged. His hands trembled as he lined it up. The core pulsed harder, as if recognizing its home. He snapped it into place. The machine let out a low hum, deep and powerful. The lights surged, and the interface screen came to life for the first time. It displayed English words, "Reversal." "Protocol unlocked, begin stabilization." Jake pressed the command. The chamber lit up, sending soft energy beams toward Ziri's body. Her coconuts pulsed rapidly, then slowed. The glow dimmed slightly, and her breathing evened out. But then the machine beeped sharply. "Manual regulation required." Jake's heart dropped. Of course, it's not that easy. He ran to the side panel. Reading the options, the reversal had to be done in stages too fast. And her body could overload, too slow, and the energy could collapse inward. Crushing her from the inside, he grabbed the stabilizer dials and began turning them gently. One by one, he reduced the energy flow. Sweat dripping from his forehead, sparks flew from the console. But he kept going, whispering to himself, "Come on, hold together. Don't die on me now." Behind him, Ari whimpered, her body arching slightly as the energy coursed through her. Jake turned the last dial slowly, carefully. The room dimmed, the air cooled, and her coconuts stopped glowing. Silence filled the room. Then she exhaled a long, steady breath. Her eyes opened fully. Clear and golden once more, she looked around. Then focused on him. "You did it?" she whispered. Jake fell to his knees beside her. "Exhausted? Yeah, I think I did." Ziri sat up slowly, still wrapped in the blanket. Her body looked calm again, balanced, normal except for the lingering glow in her cheeks. Her coconuts had returned to a manageable size, still full, but not dangerously so. She placed a hand gently on Jake's cheek. "You saved me," he smiled, tired but relieved. "Well, I owed you that much." Ziri leaned closer, her voice soft. "No, you gave more than you owed." They sat together in silence, the hum of the machine fading away for the first time. Since this nightmare began, peace settled over them like a warm breeze. But something else lingered, something quiet and strong between them. Jake looked at her, truly looked. Not at the glowing energy or the strange machine, but at her Sci, the girl who had trusted him, even when her body was out of control. The girl who smiled at him now like he was more than just a mechanic. "I don't know what happens next," he said softly. "But I'd like to stay." Sci smiled, her golden eyes glowing gently. "Then stay." He reached out, and she didn't pull away. Their hands touched, fingers lacing together naturally. Her skin was warm, not from the machine, but from something else now, something real. Behind them, the screen faded to black. "Reversal complete," it whispered. The next morning, sunlight from the station's artificial dome filtered gently into Ziri's room. The glowing emergency lights were gone. The machine was silent, and for the first time in days. There was no pulsing energy, no alarms, no growing panic in her chest. Only calm Ziri sat by the small table, sipping warm fruit tea, wrapped in soft clothes that actually fit again. Her coconuts were back to their natural size, still a little fuller than before, but no longer glowing or out of control. Her body felt like hers again, but something inside her had changed. She looked toward the other side of the room, where Jake was asleep in the chair. His head leaned against the wall, arms crossed over his chest. Boots still dusty from the moon, his face looked peaceful, a little tired, a little stubborn and safe. Sci smiled softly. He had risked everything for her. He had fought beasts, survived a cursed moon, and returned with a glowing crystal just to fix a mistake. But in doing so, he had done more than repair her body. He had touched her heart. She stood and walked over quietly, then stopped beside him. Her hand hovered over his shoulder for a second, then gently touched his arm. "Jake," she whispered. His eyes opened slowly, then widened. "Hey, are you okay?" She nodded. "I'm better, thanks to you." Jake stretched, yawning. "I must have passed out." "Sorry," Sci shook her head. "You stayed with me, even when I looked like a glowing balloon." Jake chuckled. "You look strong, brave, and maybe a little scary." She laughed softly, a sound that made Jake's heart flutter for reasons he didn't want to admit yet. There was a moment of silence between them. Not awkward, just gentle, like the quiet before a sunrise. Then Sci cleared her throat. "I was thinking, maybe you'd like to have lunch with me today." Jake blinked. "Lunch, like together?" She nodded, her cheeks turning a soft pink. "Yes." "Together? Just us. No glowing machines, no emergency beeping, just food, and maybe talking." Jake rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly more nervous than he had been on the moon. "I'd like that, a lot." She smiled wider, then turned to grab her coat. As she did, something shimmered near her chest. One of her coconuts gave off a faint pink glow for a second, not enough to panic, just enough to catch Jake's eye. He blinked. Was that Sci quickly pulled her coat closed, blushing deep violet now? Probably nothing. Residual energy? Jake raised an eyebrow, grinning. Right? Residual? She gave him a playful look. "Don't ask too many questions, human," he laughed, standing up. Fair enough. They walked out into the hallway together. Side by side, the station felt brighter somehow, like something had shifted. Not just in the energy field, but in the space between two people. Other aliens passed them, some nodding, some staring curiously at the strange pair. But Jake didn't care. Sci didn't either. They just walked, step by step, like it was the most normal thing in the galaxy. They reached the cafeteria, found a small corner table, and sat across from each other. Sci ordered a bowl of glowing fruit slices. Jake got noodles because that's all he really trusted in. An alien kitchen. They ate quietly at first, exchanging small smiles. Sci took a bite and looked up at him. "You know," she said, "my people believe that when someone sees your coconuts glow and still chooses to stay, that person is meant To be close, Jake almost choked on his noodles. That's a strong tradition, she giggled. I'm just saying, you didn't run. Jake leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. And I won't. Not now, not ever. Her eyes softened. Good. Because I don't want you to go anywhere, Jake. Smiled, then reached across the table, taking her hand in his. Their fingers laced together naturally, as if they had always fit. Her skin still held a soft warmth not from a machine this time, but from something real, something blooming outside. The station window, stars passed slowly by. Planets twinkled in the distance, and inside that little corner of a floating outpost, a human and an alien girl sat together, quietly falling into something neither machine nor energy could control, something entirely their own.